Welcome, and thank you for joining today's National Industrial Security Program Policy Advisory Committee meeting, also known as the NISPPAC. To receive all pertinent information about upcoming NISPPAC meetings, please subscribe to the Information Security Oversight Office's overview blog at isu-overview.blogs.archives.gov or go to the Federal Register. All available meeting materials, including today's agenda, slides, and biographies for NISPPAC members and speakers, have been posted to the ISU website at www.archives.gov/isu/oversight-groups/NISPPAC/committee and have also been emailed to all registrants. Not all NISPPAC members and speakers have biographies or slides. While you're able to connect via the telephone only, you're welcome to join WebEx with the link provided with your registration, as all available materials will be shared during the meeting on that platform. If you've connected through WebEx, please ensure you have opened the participant and chat panels by using the associated icons located at the bottom of your screen. If you require technical assistance, please send a private chat message to the event producer. Please note all audio connections are currently muted with the exception of NISPPAC members, speakers, and ISU, who we ask to please mute their own lines when not speaking. If you're not a member of the NISPPAC and would like to ask a question or make a comment, please hit #2 to raise your hand if you connected through the audio conference. If your audio is through WebEx today, you may click the hand icon at the bottom of your screen or send your question to all panelists through chat. Another option is to email your questions and comments to nispac@nara.gov, and someone will answer your questions there. This is a public meeting. Like previous NISPPAC meetings, this will be recorded. This recording, along with the transcript and minutes, will be available within 90 days on the NISPPAC Reports on Committee Activities webpage mentioned earlier. At the conclusion, a survey will be provided for feedback. If you would like to be contacted regarding your survey responses, please include your email in the comments block so the NISPPAC team can get back to you personally. Let me now turn things over to Ms. Heather Harris-Pagan, the designated federal officer for the NISPPAC, to facilitate the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Candace. I am pleased to let everyone know we now have a new director of ISU, Mr. Michael Thomas. Mr. Thomas brings 15 years of federal government service to the position, most recently serving as the Director for Access Management at the National Security Council. Prior to joining the NSC, Michael served for 12 years at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, where, during his tenure, he oversaw digital strategy and transparency efforts of the ODNI, coordinating these activities across the wider intelligence community. Mr. Thomas, would you like to say a few words?
Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Welcome to the 73rd meeting of the National Industrial Security Program Policy Advisory Committee. I look forward to working with you. I'm glad to be here, and I know we have a packed agenda, so I'll step back and get out of the way, and I look forward to hearing from everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. In addition to Mr. Thomas coming on board, we also have a new Associate Director replacing Greg Pannoni. Ms. Jennifer May leads the NISP, Cyber, Controlled Unclassified Information, and State, Local, Tribal, and Private Sector programs. Ms. May most recently served as the Chief of the Security Professional Education Development, also known as SPEED, Certification Program Management Office with a Center for Development of Security Excellence, also known as CDSC, at the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, also known as DCSA. Ms. May, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Heather. As Heather stated, I recently joined the IC team as one of Michael's associate directors. I am very happy to be here, and I look forward to working with this community as a whole. Thanks, everyone, and back over to you, Heather.
Thank you, Jen. I will now begin attendance for the government members. I will state the name of the agency, then the agency member will reply by identifying themselves. Once I have gone through the government members, I will then move over to the industry members. After the industry members, I will then proceed to the speakers. ODNI?
Lisa Perez here. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, and I'm looking forward to hearing today's presentation.
Thank you, Lisa. DOD.
Hi, good morning. This is Jeff Spinner. Happy to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. DOE.
Good morning, this is Jamie Gordon, and I'm looking forward to today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. NRC.
This is Michael England, and I'm happy to looking forward to today's meeting.
Thank you, sir. DHS.
Good morning, Heather. This is Rich Josser, and good morning, everybody.
Thank you, Rich. DCSA.
Good morning, this is Matt Roche.
Thank you. CIA.
Good morning, this is Don from CIA.
Thank you. Commerce. Department of Justice.
Good morning, Kathleen Berry.
Thank you. NASA. NSA.
Good morning, this is Matt Armstrong. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. State Department.
Good morning, this is Janice Custer-Lazarchik.
Thank you. Air Force.
Good morning, this is Winston Beauchamp.
Thank you. Navy.
Good morning, Robin Nickel, Department of the Navy.
Thank you. Army.
Good morning, Laura Agnew, Department of the Army.
Thank you. Now I'm going to turn to the industry members. Ike Rivers.
Good morning, Ike Rivers. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Sadler.
Good morning, President.
Thank you. Dave Tender.
Good morning, everyone. Present.
Thank you. Jane Dinkle.
Good morning, this is Jane Dinkle.
Thank you. Kathy Edwards. I'm sorry, Doug Edwards. Kathy Andrews.
Good morning, Kathy Andrews here.
Thank you. Latoya Coleman.
Morning, Latoya Coleman here.
Thank you. Charlie Sowell.
Good morning, this is Charlie Sowell.
Thank you. Now I'll do a roll call for the speakers. Jen Allworth.
Good morning, thanks for having me.
Thank you. David Dry.
David Dries, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Matt Kitzman.
Matt Kitson here.
Thank you. Mike Fowler.
Mike Fowler here. Good morning.
Thank you. John McMahon.
Good morning, John McMahon.
Thank you. Tracy Kindle.
Good morning, President.
Thank you. Dave Scott.
Good morning, Dave Scott.
Thank you. Good morning. Mike Ray.
Hey, good morning, Mike Ray's on.
Thank you. Mark Peckrell.
Mark Peckrell, delighted to be here.
Thank you. If anyone else is speaking during the NISPPAC that we have not heard from or we don't know about, please speak now. All right, thank you. We request that everyone identify themselves by name and agency if applicable before speaking each time for the record. In addition to Mr. Thomas and Ms. May, we have had a few changes to the NISPPAC membership. Even though she wasn't a formal member of the NISPPAC, Allison Renzella has left the Department of Defense for DCSA, so hopefully she will not be a stranger to the program. Michael England has replaced Dennis Brady at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission as the primary member. Chris Heilig remains the alternate. For the Department of the Air Force, the primary member, Jenna Roscoe, has been replaced by Winston Beauchamp. Annie Backus remains the alternate. DCSA's alternate member, Derek Broussard, has been replaced by Scott Cronin. Department of Justice's alternate member, Kathleen Berry, is retiring at the end of the month. Lisa Reedy has replaced Latoya Coleman as the NISPPAC Industry Coordinator. For those departed members, thank you for your contributions over the years. We look forward to continuing the work you have done with the new representatives. If you have any questions about the previous meetings, the recording is located on the ISOO website under the NISPPAC landing page. At this time, we will now introduce our speakers for our update. Mr. Isaiah Rivers, the NISPPAC industry spokesperson, will provide the industry update. Ike?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mr. Thomas, Ms. May, and Ms. Harris Pagan. I hope everyone is doing fine on this wonderful, chilly morning. I'd like to call this Happy Thursday Eve. This is yet another opportunity for security professionals on the government and the industry side for us to kind of get together and collaborate on how we can continue to work together in protecting, obviously, the war fighter in this great country. Like I always say, we are indeed better together. For Mr. Thomas and Ms. May, welcome aboard. Industry NISPPAC looks forward to working side by side with you. Industry does have one ask for you already, and that's if the two of you will consider having the next public meeting in person. It's been a very long time since we've had an in-person public meeting. Since the last public meeting, virtual, we have had two CSA/CSO and clearance working group in-person meetings, and they have been proven to be very effective. So hopefully, looking for your support in making this happen in the future. I would be remiss if I did not say, although Veteran Day has passed, I am a retired Air Force member, and I just wanted to thank all the veterans and their families for being the reason for the season. We have our freedom because of your commitment. So please know that your past efforts are not forgotten. So thank you. Thank you so much for being an impact part of history in our great country. Since our last meeting, industry has been extremely busy working and collaborating with the government on the different policies that affect both sides. And although we have made progress in a lot of our different areas, there's still lots of work to be done on both sides of the table. But Industry NISPPAC is strapped aboard, and we're ready, and we are extremely confident that our continued collaboration and partnership will only get stronger, allowing us to enhance our capabilities in protecting the warfighter. Can you move to the next slide, please? Next slide. Industry NISPPAC, we had our elections back in September, replacing two of our phenomenal security professionals in the industry, Ms. Tracy Durkin from ManTech and Mr. Derek Jones from MIT. Both these individuals have definitely paved the way and are valuable pillars in this community. Although their term has come to an end, their contributions will continue as they are still participating in our NISPPAC working group, and they are still part of many other security studies in our community. So thank you so much to Tracy and Derek for all they have done and all they will continue to do. Next slide, please. Our newest members is Latoya Coleman from ManTech and Mr. Charlie Sal from SE&M Solutions. Both Charlie and Latoya bring an exceptional and extensive experience that will only enhance our already great members of our Industry NISPPAC team. Next slide, please. We also want to welcome our new MOU members, NDI Chair, Mr. Jim Kennedy from the Boeing Company, and our IMSA rep, Ms. Mary Eddington from Pearson Consultants, as they replace two great leaders in the industry, Quentin, better known as Q Wilkes, and Ms. Kathy Pearson. Thank you so much for your time and your service and all you have done and all you continue to do. So, and we will always be reaching back out to you. So thank you. Last, I have to say this. I want to thank Ms. Heather Harris-Pagan for her continued contribution, both on the government and the industry, in helping bridge gaps between the two. And she does everything possible in getting us together. I know her job sometimes that behind the scenes that nobody sees, but those should not go unnoticed, and they are extremely invaluable. So Heather Harris-Pagan, thank you so much for all you do. Next slide. So before we go into our topic, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Kathy Andrews from Northrop Grumman. She is a NISPPAC member and the chair of our Industry NISPPAC Physical Working Group. She's going to give an update that is very important that affects the majority on this call. So I'm going to turn this over to Kathy right now. So Kathy, can you take over?
Sure. Thank you, Ike, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to provide you with an update on the ICD 705 Tempest issue that we've been working for a better part of the last year. The key issues continue to be the lack of consistent policy across all of government for both SCIFs and SAPFs. I will say that we have seen very good progress in the last 6 months on the flexibility to implement as well as sharing of the threat. Both of those we have made a lot of progress with. In addition, there continues to be concerns about the government's ability to staff enough experts to implement the guidance to be compliant, specifically the CTTA subject matter experts. Many companies have developed in-house expertise to conduct these tests, and we're hopeful that they will be accepted by the government. Funding, supply chain, and mission impacts continue to be concerns of industry. Next slide, please. You will see we've had some recent interactions that have been very, very fruitful. In September, in association with the annual ISWIC conference, we had a meeting with the IC directors with an updated presentation about the threat from NSA. We had panel discussions at the AIA NDIA conference to further the discussion, and we're hoping to have an ISU working group, industrial working group meeting scheduled before the year end. Next slide, please. So the current state of this very important issue, NSA has taken the lead with the threat, and they have worked actively sharing this information with both industry and government partners. There have been multiple meetings between IC members to discuss a consistent path forward. In addition, industries created and shared a recommended strategy that I will share with you in another slide that we hope will allow a joint course of action to follow. Most companies are in the process of collecting the data to allow an understanding of the magnitude of the problem. Excuse me. And we're seeing more realistic expectations on the implementation approach and the timelines. Next slide, please. So the next steps as we see it is to work more closely with the SAP security directors, SAPCOs, to achieve alignment amongst the services and hope to align with the IC community. We absolutely realize each site is assessed on its own risk posture and sensitivity of missions vary greatly, but we're hopeful of a high-level consistent approach that will encourage more efficient use of space through co-utilization. So starting in Q1, excuse me, we are intending to have established our data picture to allow us to begin working more closely with the government in Q2 to establish priorities for which sites require critical prioritization. In addition, POAMs will be created or established to achieve compliance for each site. And I recognize that in some customer areas, those are already created and have been approved. Our target is to finalize timelines by the end of 2025 so that industry can map out and obtain the necessary capital in out years to achieve the compliance goals. Next slide, please. So in closing, I'll share with you the proposed DIB classified area transition strategy. You'll note that the 4 pillars map to the next steps I previously spoke to, and if adopted, should ensure a synchronized plan to ensure compliance. I welcome any questions or comments or input to this. This has become a very important goal of both industry and government, and I'm very excited about the collaboration that this has brought, and I have no doubts that we'll make the same amount of progress in 2025 as we did in 2024. Thank you very much, and I'll turn things back over to you, Ike.
All right, thank you, Kathy. And Kathy, what Kathy had not mentioned is that she will also be having a physical security working group meeting coming up. We'll be working with ISU, Heather and the team to come up with a date that is best appropriate for industry NISPPAC and the CSAs and CSOs. So we continue this extremely very important collaboration concern of physical security. So we're going to get straight to our topics here. We asked everybody, we'll go through these. I'll have joining me with some friends that will come and chat a little bit, and then hopefully we can get some of our answers through some of the collaboration when it's the different CSA, CSOs opportunities. I'm going to pass this over to Jane Dinkle from Lockheed Martin, just to chit chat a little bit real quick about SF 328 and Section 847. Jane, over to you.
Thank you, Ike. I just wanted to mention that industry still has great concern over the updates to the SF 328. We consider this one of the largest impacts and changes to the NISP since the 32 CFR Part 117 was released. Additionally, industry has great concern and a lot of questions about Section 845, the implementation and the impact to industry, and how DCSA and the government will assist industry with that transition. Thank you, Ike. I'll pass it back to you.
All right, thank you, Jane. So we're going to move right along from the DoD side of the house. Mr. Jeff Benninger, over the summertime, he presented an opportunity for industry NISPPAC to make some comments on the DoD Staff Access Program, staff manual draft. So we provided some comments to Mr. Jeff Benninger. And so, Jeff, we're just looking to see where we have some updates, to see where that's at. Industry is kind of looking to see, what's the next step in with that manual. Also, CUI, CNMC implementation across the DoD and IC. I mean, that's a topic. It's a topic that is still, people are acting. There's still confusion. We don't have it. We have it. Who's playing, who's not playing. So we're looking for some clear guidance to send out there to industry to see, where we are with this topic. Are we ever going to get to that time where everyone is participating? That's the big question and stuff. And so we're looking for, if we could have some updates on that, Jeff. Moving along to DCSA, we know the new scoring rating card went out. The 1 October was the first of the new security review ratings. Thank you, DCSA and Industry NISPPAC subgroup, working collaboratively to come up with a great product. And we know it's a great product, but what we would like to see is the transparency when it comes to the metrics and see how that is now working, because it's the only way we're going to see if it's a better tool than what we had before. So we're looking for when can we, industry, start seeing some metrics. I know we just started in October, and so I know that's not out there yet, but we want to know, if that's something that you all will be able to do for us quarterly, semi-annually, whatever, with some metrics that have some graphics to it. So that's it on the new security rating scorecard. I'm going to pass this back over to Jane Dinkle in regards to entity vetting, some of the backlog updates, and some requests for some metrics. So over to you, Jane.
Thank you, Ike. Yes, I appreciate the relationship that DCSA and specifically Matthew Kitzman has with the NISPPAC entity vetting and FOCI working group. Some of the requests that we'd like to understand is a regular release of entity vetting metrics, similar to how the personnel security metrics are presented in a visual format. Also to understand the extent of the backlog and the reasons for those backlogs, and how industry can help with that, and perhaps the top 3 to 5 reasons for rejection of entity vetting packages, any trends that we can identify, and again, then address that from a training perspective of how we can ease that going forward. Thank you, Ike.
All right, thanks, Jane. Before I pass this over to LaToya Coleman, who will talk a little about investigation timelines, and then she'll go through ODNI stuff. As far as MBIS, right? So we know that the Honorable Dr. William LaPlante approved the MBIS modernization. It just was released, I want to say Friday over the weekend. But with that being said, I know last week we had the DCSA Industry Stakeholder Advisory Board, and we act, since the release, the MBIS 36-month road plan. Will DCSA release 36-month roadmap so we can actually see that, So the answer we got back was they were not ready to release that roadmap. Well, industry, we would like to know, what is that reason, and is there a timeline to it being released, right? Because these are the questions that industry is asking. So we want to be able to help out with those answers and stuff. So looking to see if we can get any more guidance with that. Again, I know we had the ISAB last week, but a lot of things changed between that time and now. So we're looking to see if there are any more updates when it comes to the release of the 36-month roadmap. I want to turn it over to Ms. LaToya Coleman from Mantech in regards to investigation timelines and then some of the ODNI topics. Over to you, LaToya.
Thank you, Ike, and good morning, all. As it relates to the investigation timelines, we had a good meeting with DCSA last week, and DCSA is aware of the background investigation timeline uptick. DCSA is working to provide a solution to industry to address this uptick. However, industry requests that we have a meeting in the near future to address our concerns related to that uptick. Moving on to the ODNI topics on information sharing and overhead billets policy. Industry has the understanding that that both of these policies, the information sharing and overhead billet policies, are pending approval. Industry is requesting an update on the status of these policies. We'd also like to inquire on any other potential policies that are affecting industry. Taurus is our next topic. It is our understanding that a project lead is in place for the Transparency of Reciprocity Information System, known as Taurus. Industry would like to get more information on this system and find out how industry can assist. Over to you, Ike.
All right, thanks, LaToya. Heather, before we wrap up on our end here, I do want to note for all the CSAs and CSOs, inquiry on upcoming policy releases. So if your particular agency or entity has, some policies that industry NISPPAC is not aware of and you want to release and you're looking for our assistance and maybe reviewing some of the documents or some of the changes to any of the policies, we welcome those with open arms. I think, a lot of the things that we're doing together now, collaborating and allowing the industry to see some of those policies is actually kind of helping out quite a bit. I do want to give a big shout out, and she's now gone back to DCSA, but Mariana Martineau, that was helping out at ODNI. I want to just really give a nice handshake, clap on behalf of industry NISPPAC, as she was a true partner and collaborative with us with a lot of different policies and stuff. So we really appreciate that. We will miss her, but we know that Mr. Mark Brown Salenser and the new folks will continue steady, just like it was when he was there. So that's all industry has right now, Heather. We're definitely looking forward to everybody's responses to some of the asks that we have. And always we're looking forward to working with everybody. And let's not wait till this public meeting to have conversations. We can have these conversations any day, all day. Industry NISPPAC is here to support and help. So over to you, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you, Ike, and the other industry NISPPAC members. Do any NISPPAC members have any questions for Ike? do we have any questions in the queue?
We have no questions in queue, but once again, you can press #2 if you're in the audio conference or click the hand button at the bottom of the screen in WebEx.
All right, thank you, Candace. Next, we have Mr. Jeffrey Spinninger, the Director of the Information and Acquisition Protection Directorate for the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, who will give the update on behalf of DoD as the NISP executive agent. Jeff?
Good morning. Just a quick sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Heather. And let me start by echoing, Ike's comments and frankly his call out of your support for all of us. I know this is a heck of a thing to orchestrate, and you do a fantastic job. And I also think, in testament to your leadership, I really appreciate the comments that you offered with respect to Allison Renzella. Super excited for the opportunity that she has now taken at DCSA, but we miss her. The NISPPAC should miss her, and hopefully your shout out and continued across the board, we'll see her participation come back. She's a very, very important voice for the department, for DCSA, and frankly for everyone who works on matters related to NISPPAC and the NISP. I'd like to also then, additionally say welcome to Mr. Thomas, welcome aboard. Just an amazingly outsized role that that ISOO has across the board for with respect to all the scope of your responsibilities, which of course I'm sure you're getting to know very well. Sorry about that. And was pleased to have the opportunity to have an office call with Jennifer just about, I don't know, 3 weeks or so ago. So the opportunity for strong partnership, to build on the strong partnership that the department has always enjoyed with each of your predecessors, including in those times when they would have to deliver information or broker information. Maybe that's a better way to describe it. That's challenging. It's hard. We don't need to bring easy questions to the table. We need to bring the vexing ones, and the ability of the ISOO team in general and those who really run the NISPPAC, to really kind of shepherd those issues across something as complex as the NISP, the federal government, all of the companies and industry. This is very, very important. And with that, I cannot echo strongly enough, what Ike said earlier on the idea that the opportunity to return to in-person, meetings, as important as it is to be on the record. And I talk about it all the time, which of course NISPPAC presents itself and testament to being able to figure out a way to do that through the pandemic, and then continuing to its present day. But I cannot help but think that there's essential value that we lose in the opportunity for the interactions. Frankly, the opportunity for discussion, for folks to kind of congregate, in the Hallett halls that you guys call your office. It's one, it's historic, but two, it's opportunistic, and anything that we can do to support that happening again, I certainly hope we'll do so. I was looking back in my calendar, and I noted the last time that we met was in the 1st of May, which always reminds me of a decision that we made that I will continue to sort of beat the drum on as it relates to cadence and opportunity to be on the record. And we all agreed, including me, that that 2 times a year is sufficient to the requirement. But I can't help but wonder if maybe that wasn't the case. And so I will at least continue to ask, particularly as new leadership has been brought aboard, that you consider, in the return to in-person meetings, the opportunity for a bit more frequency. There's a lot going on. Ours is a dynamic environment, and the opportunity to match pace with that through on-the-record engagement, I think, would benefit all of us for whatever burden it may be. It's logistically, it's not easy. There's 1,000 other things to do, but this is a very deliberate process and a deliberative body. And if we really want to achieve some of the change in outcomes that are envisioned, both in the remarks that Ike and his colleagues have raised, and others that will likely come up through the course of the discussion today, I can't help but think, but increasing the cadence of on-the-record engagement would help that. So I will address, do my level best. Ike, I have no doubt in your willingness to jump in if need be, if there's something that that you have a follow-up question, but I'll try to address those issues that you and Jane in particular raised across the board as I continue through my remarks. And gosh, forgive me, I've forgotten to also, I should have offered a welcome to LaToya and to Charlie and to Mary and to Jim. The nice thing about about all this, or when you reach a certain point in age, the good news is that we've all gotten an opportunity to meet each of us, one another many times, and the opportunity to collaborate, through the formal mechanics of the NISPPAC. I'll look forward to that opportunity and welcoming you aboard. So since we last met, it's we've been slogging away at policy, which is a super fun thing to do in the Pentagon. And so we've been leading a number of revisions and foundational supporting policies to, at its core, which are InfoSec. I found occasion to peruse. If you're a student of the Department of Defense policy, most of it, not all of it, but most of it is public. And our good friends who administer such things in the Washington headquarters services have seen fit to keep a kind of a scorecard going, one oriented mostly about new or evolving policy, but also, those of greatest interest, in the public-facing website, right? So where what are folks looking at the most frequently? We're a perennial top 5 winner. Usually CUI is either 1 or 2 on the list of issuances of primacy right now. That one's not in the top 5 today, but volumes 1, 2, and 3 of the DoD Information Security Program, do occupy slots 3, 4, and 5. A couple of new directives within the framework of the portfolio of my leadership. Complete for us the full cycle. So issues and policies related to what we describe more broadly as protective functions are perennial, vote getters, as it were. But InfoSec continues to outpace all others, and that shouldn't surprise anybody on this call. Michael, I thought that you would find that instructive, as we get the opportunity to kind of orient, very much focused on issues related to NISP and NISPPAC, the opportunity for follow-up with you and with Jennifer, and frankly with my leadership and those across the department, the other stakeholders that are on here, the other NISPPAC representatives from the military departments and from DCSA. I think there's tremendous opportunity for you and all of those department personnel who have responsibilities in this space to get a sense to level set and to explore the benefits of partnership in much the same way that Ike has described, and frankly for which many of us have and can point to over many years of collaboration and partnership. So back into the policies, right? So again, there's no shortage of policy related to security matters generally, and those related to information security. And as I spoke on in last NISPPAC and have over the course of the last year or more, there's been a heavy premium, from the top of the department down to really to revise and modernize. That's the term of art that we're using. Our policies, related to security, to create more consistency. Ike, I believe you used that word earlier, and I really appreciate you for doing so. It's the, if you'll pardon the expression, the first rule of Fight Club, right? The first rule of security is consistency. We have to have consistency. It's an easy thing to say that we aspire to, but it's mechanically difficult. And when we find ourselves burdened by legacy policies and legacy processes that may have made sense in a different time, we do find an increasing sense of urgency to modernize, as I mentioned before. For us, that is a heavy and active conversation on both expanding our baseline requirements for information security, and then also on honing those and focusing those, in areas where there are legacy and forever requirements where safeguard is concerned, classified. But the first thing and to bring up, and I think Ike will address at least some of the question that was raised before on the issue of CUI. I appreciate your comments and the industry perspective on this, and I echo them entirely in terms of your core question about the state of the department's program and the essential need for a greater degree of alignment, with those of our partners in the intelligence community. We agree with you entirely. You know, we recognize that like anything else, there are priorities and there are challenges and considerations that have to be baked in. But the foundational requirement for a degree of consistency in this important space is something that only increases as time goes on. So on the DoD side of that question, I'm happy to be able to point to a number of revisions to the baseline policy that's now coming out of just about 5 years since the department issued its instruction, with great support from ISOO at the time that we did so, in a way that really kind of underpins much of what we see on another question of yours that related to CMMCL. I'll briefly touch on in a moment as it relates to creating baseline and consistent set of requirements for safeguarding of CUI, when it's required for processing on commercial or non-government systems. So all of you are aware of the fact that the CMMC rule has gone live and are working through what is a very complex suite of requirements. But the foundation of that, is what I'll focus my remarks on today, and that is as it pertains to fundamental and basic requirements as it stands right now for CUI. The department needs to fully realize the benefits that we anticipate where CMMC is concerned. We'll need to delve more specifically into those specified requirements in those places where there are additional safeguarding necessary. We have generally held fast as a function of CUI because we don't want to get too far afield or any further afield, from other agencies, other executive branch agencies, and in particular the IC. That gets me to the second part of your question, and that related to the IC side of this thing. If acceptable to you, Ike, and frankly to you, Michael, I would commend that to ISOO. I know there's some still work to be done in terms of some of the reform initiatives that Michael, that you and others at the NSC have and are continuing to lead. But I hope as you are getting underfoot here, as you're getting a sense of what priorities there are, the fundamental requirement to create a level set for that consistency that I continue to foot stomp on this left edge, this new left edge or emerging left edge of our security requirements is incredibly important across executive branch agencies, and substantially greater in the demand and interoperability, security interoperability that we and our industry partners absolutely need. We owe our industry partners that consistency across components of the Department of Defense and then across the broader interagency. And we're happy to partner with you and the ISOO team and all those that have equity in this within the government to help to advocate for that consistency. A number of other places, so moving into a couple of other primary policy work that we've been doing. We are pretty much so it's football season. I'm not going to say who my football team is because Ike will laugh at me. But we are inside the 5-yard line to modernize the department's policies related to security classification guidance. When complete, and I hesitate to put a timeline on it, but I would say we're pretty much in there. And unless there's a fumble that I can't anticipate, which can certainly happen, I expect us to get over the line here and issue a revised DoD instruction on security class guides that will be applicable to all classified information across the Department of Defense. This is particularly important to our industry partners so that they will see more consistency, related to those requirements that pertain to collateral information for which baseline NIST requirements apply, and those where there's increasing sensitivity for those programs that we protect as special access. And then with an eye for consistency for that information, which is safeguarded as FEI. So we will have, where we used to have 3 similar but not entirely the same policy requirements, we will only have 1, and that is a pretty good pathway to again that consistency of execution to move forward. How will we measure success in that once it's issued? Right now, if anyone is a student of the DTIC website, where you can see a great number, but certainly not all of the department's classification guide, right, there are thousands on there. I think we're a little over 3,200 by the last count in the public face. Of course, those guides that are classified or require some degree of safeguarding are not on there. Suffice it to summarize that we have a lot of guides, and it is incredibly difficult to navigate those, inside the government, and it can only be increasingly difficult when we cross the threshold into industry. So we have set ourselves up as a not yet fully defined expectation or goal to see a nominal reduction over time in those guides, and that's just a greater consistency. We will be looking for a tremendous amount of feedback from certainly across the components, right, as we evaluate the way in which we've written the policy, but mostly with a primary eye to NISPPAC and the various working groups to feedback that we know we can rely on from NISPPAC members, from the MOUs, and the broader NISP to be able to make sure that we're getting this right and we're heading in a good direction. I appreciate Ike raising this app manual, and as he mentioned over the summer, I really cannot thank the industry members enough. And then also, including some of the associations that participated. I had the opportunity to speak out at a contractor SAP security working group earlier in the summer, the early part of the summer, and was able to solicit willingness at CISWIG and of course then through Ike to get a window of opportunity for feedback from industry members on the department's manual for special access program security requirements. This was an important step for us to take. This manual, as those of you who work in that world know, that it pops up as a foundational requirement on most of the 254s that pertain to this kind of work, and the opportunity for you all to see it, in draft form and to provide feedback and input was something that I greatly appreciate. We are banging on that rock just as hard as we can. We're trying to use hammers and not our foreheads in doing that. But we're slogging it out right now, and so I owe some decision space to my leaders in terms of their abilities to get to the point where we're approving it. But we are out for a second round of coordination, literally as we speak right now. The SAPCOs and their security experts that Jamie briefly mentioned, the SAPCOs earlier. I appreciate you doing that. They're working really aggressively to help to make sure that that we're getting this right, that we're meeting the expectations of the leadership and the Deputy Secretary's SAP Enterprise Reform Initiative, that came to fruition in the baseline policies for special access programs, but that we meet the meat of the problem or the opportunity space as it relates to revisions of these important security volumes, which we are getting through. So I'm not at a place yet where I can say, hey, we're going to get this done, but I can tell you that we're not done yet, and our leadership has listed this as a priority. I don't believe that the director, DoD SAPCO, would mind me quoting him in an email that he shared with me even in the last week, where he said this remains his #1 priority, to get this manual laid flat and get it done, so we can get about the important business of understanding the implementation of that. There's no scenario where we can do that without active voice from industry, so we look forward to that. But I cannot thank you again, Ike, and the rest of the NISPPAC team for moving very, very quickly, for meeting the timeline. It was quite aggressive at the time, but you met it. The feedback and the inputs were really great and appreciated, and have helped to keep the ball moving down the field. Let's see. So reissuance of the NISP, the DoD manual continues to move forward, right? So, with just outstanding work and support, Alton Renzella and Glenn Clay. Glenn's I'm not sure was able to join today. Glenn, we're pleased to have Glenn on our team. He's been there for about a year. I can't recall, honestly, if I introduced him in the fall last year or not. That's a shame on me for not knowing that. But Glenn's joined us on a joint duty assignment from the Department of the Navy. We're pleased to have him. He's in year 2 of that particular sentence. If you've worked in the Pentagon, you'll know I use that word with a degree of deliberateness. But he's doing great work for us. He's picking up the pieces where he can to help cover down in the absence of Alton Renzella, who left us just about a month ago to rejoin the great folks at DCSA. And so we're working through that. We'll be working through the hiring process this year in relatively short order. I had to a meeting yesterday. So you'll see some new opportunities, some new blood. And for those of you who are interested in challenges, Glenn would appreciate the partnership. With that, he is really focused right now on moving the volume forward to be able to maintain again that consistency, both within what is in 117 now in the CFR, but also making sure that as we get into the component layer guidance that we provide to the department and to those that undertake services from the department, principally DCSA, have a common playbook to move forward with. It is not our priority. It's not in our top in our top echelon of priorities right now. We're banging on a lot of policy, but it's moving forward at a steady pace. And I'm happy to report, at least at this moment, there is no controversy along that. It's just a question of workflow, and we'll continue to move forward on that. I hope I'll have a more update, or that we'll be able to provide a more specific update at the next meeting, or in some of the interceding working groups that we can anticipate between now and we're all next together. Since the time we last met, though, 2 important policies were done and accomplished, and I'm happy to report. One is the DoD instruction for that implements Section 847, which Jane had mentioned earlier. So DoD instruction 5205.87 is mitigating risks to foci. And so that took a long time, but there's the get it fast or get it right model. We think we've gotten it right. That now becomes the predicate for the broader regulatory work that we'll undertake and become, frankly, a bit more public as our acquisition partners, take the steps necessary to issue the implementing DFAR clause. That is, and Jane, I'll borrow from your word, that is at this moment a present concern. And I think it's fair. I think your wording there is correct, right? There's a lot of unknown right now, and that is something that we continue to be mindful of. The best thing that we think we can do at this stage of the game is to maintain active voice, to those places where we can get to the level of necessary collaboration, in the rulemaking process, so that there's implementable requirements that both meet the intent of the statute and the fundamental necessity to meet our acquisition requirements, ours and yours. We of course always have the same desired outcome here as it relates to delivering what the department needs to meet its missions now and in the future. Along that same line, a little bit later in the summer, in July, we were finally able to issue a joint venture directive type memorandum. And this is a bit of a placeholder. This will stay in place. Related to small business joint venture, essentially ironing out and removing what was a cumbersome process that our military departments were having to undertake to accomplish what amounts to an exception to policy, to be able to meet small business requirements and rules that had been established, and some inconsistencies related to existing provisions within 32 CFR Part 2004, or 2. Gosh, I'm having a moment. The NISP. I apologize. That's embarrassing. Anyway, this DTM helps to close that loop to allow for more more streamlined, movement of acquisition decisions where this relates. It's not a permanent solution. We would still commend ISU to continue to engage with the Small Business Administration and to figure out how to be able to iron this out in more of a permanent basis, so that we don't have to live in this. We have created an administrative solution, but I'm not sure that we're fully navigating the risks that may be inherent that we can't get to at this time period. So that would be one that we would commend to our ISU partners to continue to examine and see if we can't create some options where this disconnect is with our small business partners. And then finally, a couple of other things just to move forward. We're running out of clock here. But we just initiated, importantly, right? So every year this time, ISU annual report requirements for information security. The accomplishment of information security requirements goes out. Our data call has gone out to departments and agencies in the Department of Defense here earlier earlier in the last month, sometime in the middle of last month. It'll continue. Our data call will continue for about 60 days, and then we'll look to be able to report early in the calendar year to meet the timeline and the requirement of ISOO and its broader sweep up of information across executive branch agencies. But one thing I wanted to call out to this group today, to ISOO in particular, but also to industry, is the department has taken a step to revisit what has been kind of set aside for a number of years, and that is the requirement to aggregate the costs to safeguard classified information which is a defined provision within the 2001 CFR. And so we have undertaken to resuscitate that requirement, knowing that we will have work with our components to try to get to some degree of baseline to be able to introduce back. But we did this as an affirmative step, really for a fundamental eye on lessons that we learn and continue to learn related to the 45-day security review following the unfortunate unauthorized disclosure of almost 2 years ago now. But the second was, and more relevant to this group, is to really understand what now is as an emerging question that we're going to need some really active voice from our NISPPAC partners, particularly those within industry. And that's understanding there's sort of a foundational expectation that costs related to safeguarding classified information in industry are borne by the government as a function of the contracting. And at a sentence level, that makes a lot of sense, or conceptually that makes a lot of sense. But in practice, we're not entirely sure that is accurate. And when we listen to industry and we hear concerns related to inconsistencies in the physical security space, something that our partners here today kind of described in a high level, and for which the working group is really beginning to dive into. There are costs associated with that, and we don't want those costs to be hidden. We want them to be understood, because those costs help us to understand the risk management side of this thing, which what it all boils down to. So we're taking this important step, understanding that we're not entirely sure what we will get in the data collection, but what we get, we're going to share first with ISOO, and we'll figure out ways to navigate that so that the other CSAs in particular are able to see this. This gives us options, even if some uncertain direction from there, but we look forward to the partnership and the collaboration to move forward. Lots of other topics of greater detail that I'll defer to now, other than to note that there are any number of them that we're able to pick up in working groups that frankly Heather is the grand facilitator for, and we're happy for them. But the opportunity to be able to lift things out of those working groups and put them on the record here is really how we're going to get stuff into the done column, or into the end zone, just to borrow from my analogy from before. So I'm going to stop right there. Happy to answer any questions. Always appreciative of the opportunity. Heather, back to you. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jeff.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Heather. So this is Greg Tyler, Jeff. And I may have missed the bubble, so apologies if it's already been released, but has there been any update on the executive branch's CUI study? And maybe this isn't for DoD policy, but ISOO as well. I know that was a lingering item in our last discussion, I believe, and we were expecting more information on that to be released.
So, hey, thanks for the question, Greg. I'll go ahead and speak first, but I'm going to have to back off because some of those things continue to be in work. I'm not sure I can speak with any degree of specificity on this. So if acceptable, and Michael, I don't need to put you or any of the team on the spot, but if there's any element of that you're able to touch on today, I think it might be best if it came from y'all. Over.
Michael
Hey,
Thomas,
Jeff.
are we able to? Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, this is Ike. Hey, Jeff, real quick. Can you address real quick? I know that USDI is part of the NISPPAC process as well. Can you address that, your guys' particular role in this process?
Well, so happily, the role where INS is concerned and NBIS is concerned is principally falls to my battle buddy and very good friend, Jill Baker. And so Jill, is kind of the linchpin between the leadership layers, at the INS level that interconnect and interoperate with the PAC and the executive committee, and then the folks on the ground, at DCSA who are doing the lion's share of the execution of this, right? So being able to get to a little bit of a steadier pacing with respect to requirements to allow DCSA, to the necessary space to be able to execute against those requirements is really, the role of INS and Jill Baker and her team. I am happy to take an action out of here. In fact, I had two. One I mentioned with Jen when we met, and that was the industry's interest in CMMC to extend an invitation if NISPPAC would like to the folks who run that in the cybersecurity side of the DoD-CIO. Somebody put that back to your core question. I'd be no problem sharing my time or giving all of it to Jill Baker, when we're next together to allow for a little bit more of that strategic overview where NBIS and the broader department is concerned.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any other questions for Jeff? Candace, how are we looking on questions?
Did we get the answer on the original? Why start?
Greg, let me get back to you. I'll take that as a due out. I am not sure what we can put out, so I will get back to you offline, and then I'll also have it addressed in the minutes if that's all right.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, sir. All right, Candace, how are we looking on questions?
There are no hands raised at this time.
All right, thank you. We're going to now hear from Mr. Matt Roach, the Division Chief of NISP Operations and Industrial Security for DCSA. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Heather. I'm going to provide a quick update on a few things, but before I do, I'd like to offer, as my predecessors have, my sincere gratitude to you, Heather, for your continued commitment, partnership, and endless amount of time that you've provided in planning for this engagement today. I also want to, on behalf of Director Cattler, offer congratulations to and a warm welcome to Mr. Thomas and Ms. Jennifer May. So industry has provided clear guidance in terms of what they wanted to hear about today, and we're going to cover that in depth, the security review rating score, the ISL for insider threat, a quick NI2 update, entity vetting metrics, and NBIS. First, I want to say thank you to Mr. Ike Rivers and the continued partnership, Better Together, providing this detailed list of items to discuss. First, for the security and rating score, as Mr. Rivers mentioned, we deployed that on the 1st of October. And to date, we've conducted about 267 security reviews, and so far the results have revealed that decoupling of the lowest category rating has increased the scores and ratings of commendables and superiors. But I want to caution that we're early into the year, and we're going to continue to analyze that data along with Ms. Jane Dinkle and Ms. Misty Crabtree every month on the third Monday of every month, looking at the data for inconsistencies, any types of lessons learned, and any improvements that we can offer. So we thank industry for their partnership in developing the security rating score, and we thank you in advance for the continued partnership over this next year as we analyze the results of that project. Insider threat ISL status. So the ISL is developed, as you know, to interpret and clarify current language used in industrial security policy. As a reminder, the ISL does not direct or clarify operational aspects of industrial security oversight. We want to thank industry for their commitment to reviewing that ISL and their thoughtful edits. Right now, with those edits, the document is now sitting with DCSA General Counsel for legal review and comments. We look forward to pushing that as quickly as we can in the near future. So next, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Dries, who will speak to the NI2 question.
Thank you, Matt. David Dries. I work in the Program Executive Office. I'm the Program Manager for all the IT systems and IA systems that support industrial security. So NISP Increment 2 is the modernization of the legacy systems that industrial security currently uses. The NISP system, NCCS, and then the FOCI 847 developmental system. NISP Increment 2 is a singular system, not a systems of systems. So what that means is you aren't going to go to ni2.gov and click on the NCCS button and then do the NCCS work that you're currently doing. It'll be a singular pane of glass for industry's purposes where you'll log in and go through the steps that are needed based on the workflow that needs to be accomplished. Working with industrial security, we've pulled together and have an approved list of requirements for the initial deliveries of NISP Increment 2. Again, focusing on those legacy systems and modernizing them and bringing them over as workflows under that NI2 umbrella. Excuse me. FOCI, the 847 workflow, will be the first deliverable. We're working on that right now. We have, again, approved requirements working with industrial security to decompose those into user stories and all the agile processes we need and use during software development, with an expected delivery date in the beginning of FY25 to support the DFARS update. I know industrial security is working with on tabletop exercises and user feedback on the pilot system that we've built, both from the industrial side as well as the acquisition side within the federal government. We are funded. We have a budget line through the FITUP, through the PALM process in the out years to support the development of the system. We're fully into the software acquisition pathway execution phase. All the acquisition documentation has been signed by Director Cattler as the component acquisition executive. So all of that oversight and programmatics and everything has been written, vetted, commented on, and approved through the acquisition chain of command that we operate here at DCSA. As we move into the NI2 development process, what you'll see is with the legacy systems, NISP and NCCS specifically, are going to be in a sustainment and minor enhancement phase, meaning that deliberate decisions are going to be made as to whether updates are made in the legacy systems or pulled over into NI2 when they get delivered there. So again, working with the product owners, working with the MILDEPs to determine what needs to be done right now or what can wait until NI2 comes online is really going to be part of the calculus that goes into how we deliver and when we deliver. As far as that goes, that's the update for NI2.
Thank you, Mr. Dries. I am now going to cover the entity vetting portion and provide what I consider to be great news, and that is with the collaboration of USDINS, DCSA, the GCAs, and industry. We've made great progress on the inventory of initial and upgraded FCL packages. So we're sitting right around 310 cases, and going forward for fiscal year 25, the goal is to keep 300 cases as the top line, preferably below that, but that KPI will stay consistent for FY25. We, including GCSA and industry, continue to make progress in reducing the timelines to obtain an FCL for complex and non-complex cases. For the month of October, for example, the average timeline to obtain an FCL was 68 calendar days from the date the FCL package is submitted. DCSA is continuing to examine the metrics and process to make additional improvements as appropriate. We will see going forward if this progress continues and how we can make a positive impact on changed condition packages in addition to FCL timelines. We'll look at Tier 1 sponsorships and Tier 3 timelines. Tier 1 sponsorship, the number of days is 10 days. Tier 1, 53 days. And Tier 3, 220 days. So those are the specifics related to sponsorship timelines. And it was asked that we discuss the specific reasons for rejection, FCL rejection, sponsorship rejection. And we have missing or incorrect information on the DD-254 is the predominant reason is 73%. And below that, inconsistent information across the documents submitted by the company or online databases at 63%. As was discussed earlier, the specific improvements in gathering that data through the Standard Form 328 or the 254, those efforts to reduce those inaccuracies are being undertaken through the improvements to the FCL orientation handbook, additional training to include the 328, additional hiring, of course, NI2, as Mr. Dries mentioned, and continued partnership with industry to identify other areas for improvement. So with that, I will conclude the entity vetting update and now turn to Mr. Mike Fowler for an NBIS update.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Hey, good morning, everybody. Mike Fowler here, NBIS team over at DCSA. Filling in for Mr. Rob Shady today, Executive Program Manager for the NBIS program. I wanted to provide a couple updates as far as the NBIS program goes today. I'm going to cover an overview, and then we had two questions from the NISPPAC that we are going to address today. So just quick overview where we're at with NBIS. Since taking the recovery sprint of last summer, DCSA resumed activity on the NBIS program in accordance with the signed acquisition decision memorandum, which is the formal way that our new acquisition oversight authority approves the proposed way forward for NBIS digital transformation. As we move forward, the NBIS program is aligned to agile methodologies, and the program is working closely with our mission owners in personnel security. For example, the NBIS program is looking for technical advantages in DIS that will make the execution of the continuous vetting mission more efficient. We will be deploying minimum viable products, otherwise known as MVP, testing and evaluating them with customers before they are delivered as an operational capability. We are building the technical talent on the team and working with the Defense Digital Service to attract top-notch talent in the program. And we are changing our approach to customer engagement by establishing a quarterly meeting at which we can now demo new capabilities and elicit customer feedback. The first demo will be the personal vetting questionnaire in January. A couple key milestones that occurred over the last month. First, as I mentioned earlier, on October 18th, the acquisition decision memorandum was signed by OUSD ANS, Dr. LaPlante, that authorizes the NBIS Executive Program Manager, which is Mr. Rob Shady, to move forward with the software pathway approach for the NBIS digital transformation. And then on October 21st, the NBIS Requirements Governance Board, otherwise known as the NRGB, charter was signed by Honorable Harris from OUSD INS, which authorizes the board to support capability management for DIS. Now, why are these two items important? These steps position DCSA to launch the migration and modernization of NBIS existing capital investments to the cloud and accelerates the retirement of current personal vetting IT systems. As I mentioned earlier, there was a press release that was issued on November 8th. It is posted on our website. So if you go to the home page of the DCSA website, you will see the news article there, and it outlines the details of this important milestone. So make sure you check that out. So we had two questions from NISPPAC that we needed to address today. The first involved the question about an update on the 36-month roadmap. So we'll cover that real quick. The NBIS way forward is broken up into two roadmaps that establish key milestones set forth in the Trusted Workforce Implementation Strategy. The two roadmaps are as follows. The first one is the 18-month migration and modernization roadmap. This is the primary driver for internal DCSA technical development. It outlines milestones for the NBIS Executive Program Manager who must meet to digitally transform, migrate, and modernize NBIS infrastructure and applications. These are important updates to build the foundation for NBIS product delivery going forward. The next is the 36-month product roadmap. This outlines DCSA's strategy for product delivery for external stakeholders. It is based and reliant upon the 18-month roadmap, and NBIS teamed up with Personnel Security Mission and the PAC PMO to align with the capability needs statement, and most significantly, the Trusted Workforce 2.0 implementation strategy. The roadmap follows agile development. We've broken it down into minimally viable product releases quarterly to ensure working capital is deployed at a select scale to select customers for incremental build, full-scale operational capability over multiple sprints. Roadmap is separated into 7 robust product portfolios and illustrates the teaming of the mission process. The 7 portfolios include, number 1, individual engagement. Number 2 is adjudication management. Number 3, personal vetting management. Then we have investigation management, continuous vetting management, data management, and migration and modernization. Now, over the next 12 months, we have multiple high confidence and moderate confidence MVPs depicted. As we move beyond a year, the exact quarter of MVP deliverables is dependent on transformation activities. So over the next 12 months, a couple MVPs to watch out for. Number 1, personal vetting questionnaire, which replaces the SF86, SF85P, and 85 forms, will be available as an MVP to one investigation service provider. This investigation service provider is not going to be DCSA, it will be one of our partner ISPs. In line with the MVP concept, we will start MVP with one agency to test the capability before offering it to others. And that is expected to take place in FY25 Q2. The PBQ will be tested with the PBQ will then be tested with select DCSA customers for use by individuals to complete their 5-year update by the end of FY25 third quarter. These are members who have current eligibility or a CV update is needed. We will work with the NISPPAC to identify any volunteer companies. This will be a select group of folks. And we will work with the NISPPAC to identify anybody that would volunteer to test that process out. Next, migration and modernization, key important piece of the path forward. We're going to migrate DIS, Swift, and Mirador to the cloud, and we're going to shut down DCSA's footprint to the DISA data center by the end of FY25. We are also going to shut down DCSA's footprint in the OPM data center in the Macon, Georgia office by the end of FY25. We will migrate to and modernize B's system Otherwise, one example would be PIPS. We will migrate that to the cloud by the end of FY27. And then we're also going to modernize current apps to meet user needs and reduce swivel chair activities. Just as a note, DCSA is committing time, money, and manpower every year to sustain legacy systems and fielding new development at the same time. It's vital for us to implement the migration and modernization effort first. Foundation of product delivery is technology, and our systems need to be built on modern platforms to ensure top performance and cybersecurity needs are met. The next piece involves the personal vetting questionnaire. The PVQ, as outlined by Director Cattler, is a must-have requirement. It is a must-have from OMB. OMB issued the requirement to us. We have the updated form. The updated questions are required to meet Trusted Workforce 2.0 vetting requirements, and updated questions on key sections involving substance abuse, mental health, and extremist groups are vital to the path forward for Trusted Workforce 2.0. The Defense Digital Service has created a prototype of the PVQ with agile development sprints to test, evaluate, and deploy MVPs for customer feedback. And we're looking at the first demo of the PVQ MVP to be scheduled for the DCSA and the customer quarterly, which is expected to occur in January 2025. Industry and NISPPAC attendees also support that meeting, so they will be included in that quarterly. The next question: how are we going to communicate the roadmap and future system enhancements to industry? First, the roadmap distribution has two gates that we need to pass through. The first is an internal gate. This involves the roadmap and implementation strategy needed to be approved by our oversight partners. OUSD ANS is our decision authority for NBIS, and OUSD INS is our NBIS sponsor. The technical roadmap was approved in August, and the acquisition decision memo was signed by Dr. LaPlante on the 25th of October. And then the NBIS Requirements Governance Board reviewed the product roadmap on November 1st, and that final approval is still pending. The second gate that we need to get through is our external gate, and this involves PAC PMO. We need PAC PMO approval to push forward the roadmap. That approval is still pending. Both the technical and product roadmaps will align to the milestones that are included in the Trusted Workforce 2.0 implementation strategy that's published quarterly by the PAC PMO. The detailed implementation strategy is not available on public website. Once it is achieved, we will go through the final review, and DCSA will share a version of the roadmap that highlights the delivery timeframes for the MVPs, that aligns directly to the milestones of Trusted Workforce 2.0 implementation strategy. The communication channel has not been determined yet. However, it's not going to be on our public website. There's a lot of additional information on there that we just cannot put publicly. We are looking at other avenues for that, and we will, of course, as always, work closely with our NISPPAC partners to make sure that we're getting the information to the right location for folks to have access. The DCSA industry team is going to continue our relationship with the NISPPAC working group to ensure we communicate instructions, guidance, notification, and training opportunities as early and often as possible. A couple upcoming events to be aware of. The first, of course, is the DCSA NBIS Customer Quarterly, which is coming up in January 2025, as mentioned earlier. We are also working closely with the NISPPAC working group to schedule an off-site partnering session in early 2025. Map out the way forward, coordinate timelines, and prepare industry for the next steps. This is very similar to a session that we held last October in Boyers, Pennsylvania, where the working group traveled to Boyers. We met with them over 2 days and outlined, it was a very beneficial conference. We outlined a lot of path forward and just pulled in a lot of our groups to get a great session. Looking to do the same thing in early 2025 for the next steps. Office of Communications is planning to socialize the roadmap through specific stakeholder channels, such as the NBIS Customer Quarterly. The information will be shared and will align with the Trusted Workforce 2.0 implementation strategy. And of course, as always, our team will continue our weekly meetings and calls with industry as we've been doing for the last several years. The question number 2 that the NISPPAC asked us to provide information on, they wanted to provide information on how long industry will be in the swivel chair, basically working in 2 systems. As of today, industry is initiating background investigations and CV requests in NBIS and performing subject management capabilities in DIS. The question is, how long will that continue? So the answer to that is DCSA's goal is to eliminate swivel chair processing for industry. We are working towards a solution that would enable users to perform all personal vetting management mission areas to include IRA processing in one location. This is going to be covered in the personal vetting management product portfolio, which was outlined earlier. The suite of, which is a suite of capabilities to assist agencies in conducting, tracking, and managing personal vetting activities for their workforce, such as up-to-date information for investigations, trust determinations, continuous vetting activities, reporting requirements, administrative actions, visit requests, security incidents, or security awareness briefings, and manage information that combines the low side, high side repositories to form the federal personal vetting record. The system outlined in the roadmap is a low side repository, and that is a term that is commonly used through the implementation strategy as well. This is a common personal vetting record and population management repository, and DCSA is currently undergoing a gap analysis between NBIS agency and our legacy systems to include DIS to determine best path forward. We do not yet know how the customer interface for the repository will evolve until we have completed the analysis, work with the product owners and personnel security to identify the most effective and secure solution to deliver the desired mission performance. Okay, those are the 2 questions and responses I had this morning. Happy to answer any questions at this time.
Hey, Mike, this is Greg Souther. I've got a question on the last one, the gap analysis.
Yeah.
Is that a, I understand date certain is not attainable now, but is that a 25 objective, a 26 objective, a 2020, what's the notional priority of that work stream within the overall step?
It is. It's a close time frame. We don't have a specific date for it. However, we have completed the initial gap analysis between our systems. We are presenting it to Mr. Shady this week for his review. We are looking to have a response back to that realistic, we'll just say conservatively by the end of 2024 calendar year, but certainly sooner than that. Looking at that response to come back pretty quick so that we can start making some decisions.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question I had was back on the PVQ.
Yeah.
Through the rollout of it, do you have what's the earliest date that an industry applicant or somebody going through a reinvestigation would see the PVQ itself in the process?
The date that we do have for that would be FY25 Q2, which is second quarter of next year. Sorry, actually that would be quarter 3 for next year, and that would just be for a select group of folks. We are not looking to roll that out to everybody all at once. We will work with the NISPPAC team to identify any volunteers for that effort. So that would be the earliest, and that is for a very small group that we're looking to basically just get some feedback from.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Hey, Mike, this is the PVQ demo. Is there a reason why we haven't gotten the industry NISPPAC in this working group involved in that and allow them to actually see that demo before rolling out a demo?
I think part of it is the DDS team that's been working on it is still continuing to work. There's still work to be done to complete their prototype. They have started it, but it hasn't been completed yet. The official demo is scheduled for January, but we can certainly work with you guys to try to provide something sooner than that. I can take that back as an action and work through that process.
And that's appreciated. We appreciate that because it has been proven time and time again when we kind of work these things together, we actually put a better product out, right? And so we just want to help you all be successful, right? Because if you're successful, industry is successful as well. So thanks, and over back to you.
Absolutely, totally agree. Thanks, Ike. Okay.
All right, Ms. Evans, is anyone in the queue for questions for DCSA?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Ms. Lisa Perez, the Chief of the Policy and Collaboration Group, Special Security Director at National Counterintelligence and Security Center with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Lisa?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So welcome to Mr. Thomas and Ms. May. And also, Ike, I'd like to thank you for lauding Mariana Martineau's contributions while she was here at ODNI. She is already very much missed. So I'd like to start with LaToya's questions for ODNI. She had talked about Taurus. So in response to the increased demand for expanded transparency between agencies related to personnel mobility, we've been working to deliver a high-side information technology solution that'll provide greater visibility into the information needed by gaining agencies. So the Transparency of Reciprocity Information System, or TORS as we call it, will allow agencies access to required information on an as-needed basis with the intent to enhance transfer of trust determinations. Gaining agencies will have the ability to access what actions have been taken in response to continuous vetting for the flags and alerts, also previously submitted SF-86 forms or the soon-to-be personnel vetting questionnaire, and self-reporting requirements. So under the current system, the type of information is only obtainable through a formal request between agencies. We believe TORUS will enhance timely reciprocal determinations by addressing that. Also, TORUS will leverage the INBIS capabilities such as the electronic application, the EAP function, and it'll allow applicants to submit their required paperwork in EAP and then have an IC element transport that information to the high side for processing. We also talked about, I think another question was about the overhead personnel. So we term that as the key management and oversight personnel security clearance for industry. And Congress directed the DNI to develop policy directing departments and agencies to process requests for access to classified information for contractor personnel who would not merit an application based on the work under a single contract. So in other words, the key management and oversight personnel. Some may refer to this as indirect cost personnel or, again, overhead personnel. So the ODNI worked with industry representatives to understand the challenges they experience, notably because indirect cost functions support all contracts and not singular programs or contracts. Contractors are, of course, in the best position to assess their corporate needs for access to classified information across all classified contractors. So thanks to the collaborative effort with ODNI from industry, we've drafted a policy wherein contractors will submit a request to the department or agency from which the predominance of their classified work is derived. And then, of course, the request for access for its indirect cost personnel who have a need to know. And at this time, the policy is undergoing internal review within ODNI. And I don't have any specifics as to whether there are any holdups or not. It's just making its way through the process as far as I know so far. And then another topic I was asked to speak about was covered insider threat information sharing policy. So we have asserted in the past that we recognize industry personnel represent a large portion of the total covered population working on-site at U.S. government locations. And often the U.S. government can know more about a contractor employee from both an insider threat and personnel vetting perspective. So we also recognize that government and industry share an imperative to protect personnel, facilities, and information, which is best realized when we work together to mitigate risks. In response to direction from Congress, OD&I has been working to issue policy requiring departments and agencies to share this covered insider threat information to contractor companies where the information is adjudicatively relevant, as vetted and verified, and relevant to the ability of a contractor to execute their insider threat responsibilities, and the contractor employee has provided, of course, their consent to sharing such information. So the policy, when issued, will allow departments and agencies to begin sharing information to industry to inform contractor actions to protect against insider threat exempt from insider threats. So, for example, which include direct threats of violence, damage of other destructive malicious activities which could compromise or damage information technology systems or other capabilities, and information indicating that an employee may be a target for counterintelligence or counter-espionage exploitation. Interagency coordination is ongoing. We began the informal coordination process by originally engaging with industry partners and representative groups to frame the problem. We also engaged with the Intelligence Community Security Directors, Department of Defense, and OPM. And then in the second round of coordination, we sought feedback on the draft from those organizations and groups, plus OMB and DOJ. So at this time, we are following up on feedback received with a few of these agencies. So of course, we, OD&I, look forward to progressing this draft to broader review through the Trusted Workforce Advisory Group to further inform refinements on the policy. And then we'll again coordinate across the previously mentioned organizations and groups before submitting it into the OD&I internal agency review process. So it's been a long and arduous effort, but we are definitely making progress, even if it is slower than we would like. And then lastly, I think we've talked about it in a closed meeting, but since our last public meeting, we issued the Federal Personnel Vetting Management Standards, which actually someone else mentioned here today. And I'd just like to note that those standards, or issuance of those standards, is the last of the core policies in the Trusted Workforce 2.0 policy framework. So we absolutely appreciate the collaboration from industry and input received in helping us reach this milestone for Trusted Workforce 2.0. So thank you again. And these standards provide a consistent approaches and practices for maintaining affiliations and managing the 5 vetting scenarios, maintaining vetting records, and of course, managing information sharing. So the 3 appendices that are included with this set of standards identify personnel vetting business functions, requirements for efficient workforce education that includes briefings and indoctrinations, and of course, self-reporting requirements. And wanted to mention there were, looking forward, so at this point, since the core documents for Trusted Workforce have been issued, we're just more so looking at refining other portions of the totality of the vetting process. So right now, for instance, reviewing e-vetting business rules and either updating, establishing quality standards such as for background investigations and adjudications. That's sort of where we're at right now at this point as we move into the phase 3 of the Trusted Workforce implementation. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Greg,
go ahead, Greg. Sorry about that.
You know I was going to have one, Heather. Hey, Lisa, on the Taurus application, in that development, is there any thought of being looked at industry's access under the current Scattered Castles solution? That access model is dictated by the respective agency. It's been desired for many years to have a standard access for industry as we interact with the with the process and with the systems? And is that something that OD&I is able to incorporate in the development and the rollout?
So we are throwing all of our different ideas up against the wall right now to see what we can make stick or what could even be possible. But I don't yet, I guess I don't really have detail about how Taurus will evolve at this time. It's just right now we have these basic ideas, but there are lots of other things that if we could find a way to use it to solve a problem, we would like to. But just because we want to doesn't necessarily mean technically it would work out. So right now we're just in conversations on what problems can we solve, and we know a few of them right off the bat that I've already explained, but we don't know yet how it will all shake out. So certainly that is one thing that we've talked about, but again, I don't know all the decisions because I am not privy to all the conversations that take place, but it's certainly something I'll take back and provide future updates on.
Thank you.
Hey, Laura, this is Dave Tender. Quick question. First of all, I applaud the information sharing and what you guys are doing on getting data to industry and on the OD&I side, on the as far as inside threat. Very grateful for that. And I'm just throwing out a general statement. I'm assuming this is done. I'm assuming you guys are working with the other DoD partners and DCSA as to what you guys are going to do and come out with, so it helps us across the board.
So these, I mentioned earlier the different entities that we have been coordinating with on that. So hopefully, again, Mariana was initially working this effort, so I don't know the breadth of everyone within those organizations that she would have had conversations with, but I certainly know that they've had an opportunity to review and provide input. And again, there'll be another round of reviews from those who have previously been involved.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Latoya Coleman. I actually have a question for you. As it relates to the overhead billet policy, is there an expectation of when we could see this actually being fully approved and released?
Unfortunately, I don't. So, being that it's just before an administration change that everybody, this is just a natural norm of the government that everyone is quickly trying to push their stuff through. So I imagine at some point things may come down to a prioritization by the DNI of how they'll get through these documents, but I don't know a specific date. I'm sorry.
Latoya, does that answer your question? I mean, does it address your question, I guess? Is it better?
It does address my question. Thank you for asking. Yes.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions for Lisa?
Yeah, Heather, this is Ike. Hey, Lisa. With
Hi, Ike.
with Latoya's question, I know you don't have some of the information, but is there anybody on you guys' team that we, Industry NISPPAC, will be able to work with to actually just to get some current updates as you go along? That way, when we're out and we're giving presentations, we can kind of pass that on because we get those questions all the time. And so we would like to be able to pass on some correct updated information. So anybody that we can kind of collaborate with over there?
So Mariana's position has not yet been filled. So there are some people on the team that may be temporarily working it, but I don't know if that's intended to be passed to the new person that will come in, or if it's someone else that's in the office that will remain working on this. But the person that's currently working with it is also new to the office, so they're still sort of getting their feet wet and trying to understand the breadth of all these responsibilities that are currently on their plate. So I don't know to what level they're fully engaged, but we'll certainly try to find a POC to stay in communication. I would suggest that meanwhile you can certainly send emails to me and Mark, and then one of us will certainly try to address any updates that you may need before an event or something.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Lisa from NISPPAC members? All right, Candace, how about the queue for any public members?
There are no hands raised.
All right, great, thank you. Jane Ginkle, it's my understanding you had a question for DCSA, so Matt Roach, if you're able to help her out, it'd be greatly appreciated. Jane, are you up?
Yes, thank you, Heather. I appreciate you taking the time to go back. Matt, I wanted to ask you about the release and implementation of the updated SF328. I mentioned earlier in open remarks that there is a lot of concern within industry regarding the release and implementation of the updated SF328. And I wanted to specifically ask about the current requirement. I understand that a company doesn't have to submit an updated SF328 just because a new form is coming out, but only if they actually have some material changes to that form and would need to submit an updated SF328 anyway, then they would go ahead and use this new form. But in that regard, currently, the requirement is that if an update is necessary, the company has to submit that to DCSA, quote, as soon as possible. Most IS reps interpret that as soon as possible as within 30 days. And, you know, given the overarching significant updates to this new form, SF328, or updated form, SF328, and the fact that, you know, if I'm updating it, I'm not just now updating my changes, but now I'm having to update the entire form. You know, this is a form that is very in-depth, takes a lot of time to gather that information and to present that forward. So industry would like to request some latitude on that understood threshold of submitting an updated form within 30 days of changes. We'd like to ask DCSA to consider extending that to 6 months within the necessary change being reported. Over.
Well, this is Matt Roach with DCSA. Thank you, Jane. That's an excellent question. Because we haven't gotten to the actual deployment phase of this, I will have to defer this over to the entity vetting group for action, but I think it's a very reasonable offer, or excuse me, a very reasonable ask, and I will follow up with the team to get something out formally, especially as it relates to our internal workforce and making sure the IS reps are sensitive to that request for an additional time frame of 30 days to 6 months. So I'll definitely take that for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Additionally, industry would ask as to what training DCSA has proposed or CDSB has proposed with regard to the release of the updated SF328 and these requirements within industry, the training within industry as well as internally to the DCSA workforce. Over.
Yes, thank you, Jane. That's another good point. Matt, Mr. Kitzman had notes that reference the training, and I unfortunately can't speak to those exact timelines, but I know that it is internally and externally going to be a training rollout, if you will, to make sure that we get this right the first time. So I will take that back as well for the group to address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Jane. Any other questions for either DCSA stemming from what Jane had asked or Lisa Perez, our speaker before we went to the questions? Candace, how are we looking on questions for either of them?
No questions on attendee side.
Thank you. All right, up next is Mr. Rich DeJosterin, Deputy Director for Enterprise Security Programs and Policy of the National Security Services Division with the Office of the Chief of Security Office at the Department of Homeland Security for their update. Rich?
Hello, Heather. Thank you very much. And again, I'd like to thank you for all your efforts today. In addition, on behalf of the Chief Security Officer from the Department of Homeland Security, I'd like to welcome Mr. Thomas and Ms. May. In the manner of time here, since we're running low, I'll try to keep my update brief. The updates regarding the new SF-328, I think that has been explained by multiple individuals here, so I'm not going to hit on that. There was a question about the re-adjudication of FOCI documents. Our efforts for DHS were to be ensure that its coordination with DCSA and the two respective TSAs, our main concern will be to verify the level of access that is consistent with the efforts of the contracts on that. The second question was industry is looking to see if potential policies are coming out that will affect industry. To date, DHS does not have any new potential policies coming out. The physical security continued efforts for meeting 705 Tempest compliant. All 204 DHS skips are 705 compliant, so there's no issues there on us. And it's regarding skip escorts, potential reciprocity for skip escorts during skip build-out. To date, DHS does not have any skip escort requirements for our skip build-out. So with that, that's all I have. Those are the questions. Any questions for me?
All right, thanks, Rich. Candace, how about for the public?
No questions at this time.
All right, thank you. We will now move on to Ms. Jamie Gordon, Program Planning and Management, Office of Security with the Department of Energy, who will be providing their update. Jamie?
Good morning, everyone. So thank you for allowing the Department of Energy to have the floor to provide our update. First, on behalf of Mr. John Bolden and the department's senior agency official and Natasha Sumter, who normally would be giving this briefing, however, she's otherwise engaged, and the department's she is the department's primary NISPPAC member. We would like to welcome Mr. Michael Thomas and Ms. Jennifer May to the team. We look forward to working with both of you, and we would also, like so many others have mentioned, to commend Heather on doing an outstanding job keeping the NISP CSAs and CSOs and industry partners moving forward together. Onward to the items that industry requested DOE to provide updates on. Industry asked about the impact of and the outlook on the new SF-328 NDAA Section 845 and industry's expectations concerning shared contractors and reciprocity. So concerning the 328 and the NDAA, the department will continue to mitigate and or negate foreign interests in accordance with 32 CFRs 2004 and 117 and the relevant national drivers. We'll also continue to exercise the Secretary of Energy's authorities to protect security assets under the Atomic Energy Act. So concerning shared contractors and reciprocity, CSAs currently share contractors and implement the reciprocity requirements of 32 CFRs 2004 and 117. The Department of Energy will continue to uphold reciprocity requirements in the CFRs, and we will work with our CSAs and our CSO partners to implement those requirements to meet security and contract performance requirements. Please note, though, that if there is a higher safeguarding and or access requirement, the department may subject contractors to necessary investigative and other security countermeasures commensurate to the elevated contract security access and performance requirements. Regarding industry's offer to assist with developing policies, the Department of Energy appreciates industry's interest and the offer to participate in the policy development efforts. That's something that we absolutely fully support. The department does collaborate with our contractors and consultants from throughout our enterprise in our policy and procedures and our development processes, and we will continue to do so. So we do appreciate their subject matter expertise, so we invite and encourage our contractors to participate in the department's writing teams for policy and technical standard development, revisions and updates. But essentially, this is how the department includes our industry partners. So our contractors and consultants have those unique skill sets that are relevant to department mission and add value to our policy writing process. So we highly encourage that, and that is part of what we do today. Barring any questions, I yield the floor back to you, Heather.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, Candace, any questions from the public for DOE?
Not at this time.
Thank you. All right, up next is Mr. Mike England, team leader with Security Management Operations Branch, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, who will provide their update. Mike? Mike, you are muted.
Good afternoon. Hello? Sorry about that. Got caught between. This is Mike England with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. First of all, I want to say thank you for the acceptance to this August body, and for industry. For the question for the SF-328, we have no current changes. When it comes to reciprocity dealing with contractors, we are taking that on a case-by-case basis when dealing with skip work, because the skips are normally run by our program officers. So we'll work in collaboration with them, and we will do our due diligence to make sure that any personnel that comes to work or need access to our skills will be properly vetted.
Right.
When it comes to, I'm having a little delay. When it comes to any management directives and security directives being updated, currently for FY25, we have no plan for updating any security directive. I will say FY26, we may have to, due to the Congress passing the Advance Act, we might have to revisit some of our security policies moving forward, starting FY26. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions from NRC from NISPPAC? How about from the public?
No hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jennifer Allworth with the Chief of the Central Intelligence Agency's Industrial Security Office. Jen, you're up.
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for having me. I definitely look forward to engaging more in these forums, so appreciate that. In terms of the updates we were asked to provide pertaining to the FOCI documentation, the CIA does conduct our own separate FOCI eligibility review, separate from other USG entities. But our FOCI team did want me to convey that we do accept DCSA documents as supplementals to support those FOCI mitigation determinations. Pertaining to any potential policies that may be coming out that affect industry, we do not have any at this time. However, we do want to note that as policies are updated coming down from DNI or our own internal CIA regulations, as those are updated, we will look to determine whether or not those updates or revisions impact industry, and if we need to convey any updates to industry, we will do that during our workshops and conferences that we typically hold with our cleared industrial partners between March and June every year. In terms of physical security, there have been meetings with the IC security directors and the DNI to continue the efforts for consistency in meeting 705 and Tempest compliance. I don't want to speak on behalf of DNI or the IC security directors, but I do know that those efforts are still ongoing. And they have been meeting on a regular basis to ensure that guidance is consistent and forthcoming as soon as possible. In terms of SCIF escorting, I'm not sure exactly what the question or concern is. For new SCIF builds, we would ensure that the site security manager is properly cleared and that everything is properly documented in a construction security plan in terms of who's conducting the build, the materials, reporting any security incidents. However, if the SCIF is and if the SCIF will have any type of construction while the SCIF is operational, then we do implement additional escorting requirements. And so I'm not sure if this question is pertaining specifically to us or other IC entities, but if we could have some future clarification on that, we can provide a better response to that question. And those are all the updates that I have from CIA.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. Do any NISPPAC members have any questions? How about from the public members?
There are no hands raised.
Heather, this is Kathy Andrews.
I'm sorry, one more time, Candace?
There are no hands raised at this time. I did just forward something in chat.
All right, great, thank you. We will now hear from John McMahon, Lead Auditor Specialist, to give an overview on what Underwriter Laboratories, also known as UL, and introduce the public on various working groups they have. John?
Good morning, everyone. Hope everybody can hear me fine. I'm following up. Thank you, Heather, for allowing UL into your meeting, along with Nick Myers, who couldn't attend today. I am the co-chair of the UL 2050 program. Nick Myers is our chair, and we've been doing a lot of things outside of our program right now. We've been updating the 6th edition of the UL 2050 standard, which is currently out for review, and that should be in print and ready in the first few months of the first quarter. We've heard a few things back from some of the government entities, and we're working on some changes moving forward. Our current program is based on UL compliance with 2 standards. One is the installation standard, which is UL 681. That's the installation standard for all government sites, whether it be a SCIF, a SAP-F, a closed area, an open storage, or arms and ammunition. We make sure that the equipment is installed correctly, that the protection meets the required extent of protection that is required. We make sure that the signals and communication is encrypted and is being completed correctly, and we verify signals are handled correctly according to the UL 2050 standard. We definitely are staying engaged with all the government entities and want to know that, let everybody know that we are providing training in the coming years, especially next year. And anybody interested in the training can definitely reach out to us by our UL mailbox, which I will provide in the chat so it can be provided for everybody. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, they can certainly reach out to myself or Nick. Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Are there any questions for UL? Candace, do we have any messages for UL from in the queue?
No messages for UL. We did have a question for the CIA.
All right, Jen, are you still on the line?
Sorry, Heather, she had to run, but I can take the question back for her.
Great, thank you.
Greg Panoni asked if the CIA could share their SOCI vetting process with NISPPAC industry.
I will carry that back and we'll get something back to you.
All right, great. Thank you, Greg, for that question, and we'll make sure it's addressed in the minutes as well as a due out for CIA. All right, since there are no questions for UL, we are now going to move into the portion of the meeting where we would normally get reports from the NISPPAC working groups. Although we will not be discussing all the working groups at this time, there are updates that you can review in the backup slide section of this presentation. If there are any questions about a specific working group, please email NISPPAC@nara.gov and we will get back to you. You've already heard from some CSAs and CSOs on the high-level points of what was discussed during the Clearance Working Group on September 4, 2024. We will also hear from DOE for their security clearance metrics, along with DCSA for their information systems and personnel security metrics. We would normally hear from NRC as well, but you can see their slides at the end of this slide presentation in the backup slides. They are hitting their adjudication timelines and anticipate continuing to meet goals moving forward. We are now going to hear from Mr. Tracy Kendall, Personnel Security Policy Program Manager with Department of Energy, who will be providing their metrics. Tracy?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tracy Kendall from the Department of Energy, and thank you for the opportunity to provide the DOE update. Next slide, please. The overall DOE continues to meet or exceed the IRPA goals on average over the last 4 quarters of FY 24. Our top secret clearances, the average is 14 days for initiation and 17 days for adjudication. Our secret clearances, the average is 11 days for adjudication and 11 days for initiation and 11 days for adjudication. Our top secret PRs is averaging 11 days for initiation and 25 days for adjudication. Our secret PRs, the average is 14 days for initiation and 11 days for adjudication. Next slide, please. DOE continues to exceed the adjudicated goals over the last 12 months for the initial top secret clearances. Next slide, please. DOE also continues to exceed the average initiation and adjudication goals over the last 12 months for our secret initial clearances. Next slide, please. DOE continues to exceed the average initiation and adjudication goals over the last 12 months for our top secret periodic investigation. And finally, next slide, please. DOE continues to exceed the average initiation and adjudication for our initiation and adjudication goals over the last 12 months, our secret PRs. With that, I'll entertain any questions anyone may have. And thank you again. And as we always say, if our industry partners have questions or concerns, we can assist from an DOE industrial security perspective. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're ready to assist as necessary. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Are there any questions from NISPPAC members for Tracy and DOE's metrics? Ms. Evans, is anyone in the queue for questions?
Not at this time.
Thank you. We're now going to hear from Mr. David Scott, NIST Cybersecurity for DCSA's Information Systems Update. Dave?
Yeah, thank you, Heather. I just want to first off give special thanks to Mr. Greg Sadler for his leadership and partnership with the NISA Working Group. Continue to make great progress with the industry participants within the NISA Working Group. Next slide, please. And next slide. I'm going to first talk off about the EMAS enhancements. We continue to make progress and want to provide some updates. We're continuing to partner with the NISA Working Group on industry, taking feedback, and then also internally with our ISSPs, or information system security professionals, to continue to make enhancements that progress the mission, creating efficiencies and also ultimately affecting our timeliness in a positive manner. Next slide, please. In FY24, these are a list of highlights of the EMAS enhancements. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. A couple of ones that were kind of big ticket items for us were auto-generated authorization letters as industry submits their packages, and we will the system will automatically generate an authorization letter, which limits errors that would previously be done by the ISSPs and coordinate it up to the AOs within the system. So we're taking the human and error out of it. And then next, metrics and reporting capabilities. We made some changes this year in EMAS that we were now able to, and I'll provide a slide here in a couple decks, couple slides. We're able to provide industry time for our assessment and authorization packages, which is a first ever for EMAS, even going back in the day to our OBMS. We're now able to provide a complete start to finish timeline for our authorization packages. Next slide, please. So on this, we had a deployment October 2024. Again, these are the highlighted items for our EMAS enhancements. I wanted to just call out one, which was we added a system information field to support categorization, which is workstations and servers, where over time and on new authorization packages, ISSMs will enter in the workstations and servers, the physical equipment that they have at their facility. And the reason for this is going to help better project the categorization of the facilities within NISP. So this is something that we're looking forward to and making sure that the facilities are categorized in a more accurate manner. And this is going to contribute to that. Next slide. Planned EMAS enhancements. This is a listing of the current plan enhancements that we're looking to do throughout this FY, throughout the remainder of their FY. One that we're really focusing on, and a personal one for me, is looking at the MOU process, also PDS and others workflows, trying to mimic what we did a few years ago, partnering with the NISA working group, where we included the ISSM within a workflow for transparency and accountability, which really helped with getting transparency through the system for any submitted authorization packages. We're trying to utilize our best practices and lessons learned from that and do it with our MOUs that we represent, our government-to-government MOUs. So we're currently working in a testing environment, and we're hoping sometime this FY to deploy that so that industry will be able to log in at any time and see where a current MOU or agreement is, utilizing our collaboration boards. So we're very excited about that. Next slide, please. And this is just a listing of our EMAS resources. And if there's any questions at any time throughout the year, the industry could reach out to our mailbox. We have a team of SCA contractors that are monitoring that and provide feedback at any time. Next slide, please. National metrics. Happy to report that we are actually under 5,200 systems and industries within our portfolio. And that's in large part to QA efforts that have happened over the last year and in partnership with industry. We really focused in on expired systems, as you'll see in the top right-hand corner, that has decreased significantly, and then also the not yet authorized. Our team here, our EMAS team, partnering with industry, really taking a hard look at systems that have been sitting around and lingering, either expired or not yet authorized, making sure that we're closing out those RMF packages, that last step of the RMF cycle as appropriate. Really got us down to about 5,100 systems. I think it's 5,189 to be exact, and we're continuing to stay at a steady state there. So huge effort there, and really proud of the team for that. And I talked earlier about the EMAS enhancements throughout the FY24. One was metrics and detailed reporting in the bottom left-hand corner. Our goal for an assessment and authorization package that, as advertised in our DAPM, our DCSA Assessment and Authorization Process Manual, soon-to-be process guide, is including industry 75 days, and that's an average for the FY. That includes from the start of an ISSM submitting a package, going through all the workflows within EMAS to an authorization decision. The DCSA time has been hovering right around 55 days as an approximate average. So total time 75 days, and well within the total 90-day DCSA days as advertised within the DAPM. So we're excited and happy to report on that. In the bottom right-hand corner is just a metric that you can see the average authorizations that the field represents at a national level, and you can kind of see ebbs and spikes throughout the year, just as a metric. Next slide, please. And an update on the current name is the DAPM, the DCSA Assessment and Authorization Process Manual. We're looking to rename that into a guide. The coordination with the NISA working group has been completed. The document has been completed, and now we're navigating the proper way to coordinate this for release. We understand this is going to take some time, but we are working with here internally, and we're going to coordinate with USDINS and obviously the NISPPAC as well for formal coordination for this document. So we're in those steps right now. But one of the updates that we are not going to call it the DAPM in the future release. We'll be removing the M or the manual part of it. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through these next two slides in detail. Just really wanted to touch on the CORA program, or the Cyber Operational Readiness Assessment, formerly called CCRI, Command Cyber Readiness Inspection Program. DCSA is really making some progression here in standing up our dedicated workforce out of our headquarters element. And this year we are going to conduct a total of 45, this FY 45 CORAs. And then we're going to continue to progress, increasing until we get to a steady state of a CORA on each authorized industry SIPRNet node every other year. Been partnering with industry at various venues and events to raise awareness for the change between the CCRI, which was a compliance-based inspection program, to a more risk-based, risk-focused program, which is the CORA, and some of the changes within the program. You'll see on the screen here, it's a 50-50 from a scoring perspective on cyber maintenance, and then orders, directives, and policies, which changed from a 60-30-10, which was mostly STIGs at 60%, C&D directives, and then at 10% was contributing factors. So a little tweak to the scoring, but definitely some of the weights have changed, some of the outcomes, which have not been as favorable as in past with the CCRI program. Next slide, please. I'm providing this as informational purposes. This is one of the major changes with the key indicators of risk, and this is the area where industry has struggled. So we've been focusing on really reaching out to industry and letting any clear contractor that has a SIPRNet node with that CORA in the near future or long future should be prepared at making sure that they understand what these key indicators of risk are, and reaching out either to your ISSP or to the CORA team. You can contact our mailbox here at headquarters as well to provide additional information or any clarity as it relates to these key indicators of risk to make sure that of a successful inspection. And barring any questions, that's all I have.
Hey, Dave, this is Craig.
Good, Dave.
Dave, just thank you for touching on the key points that we've all been tracking. One item, and you may not have an answer today, but for future projection, is do you have an idea when DoD would be shifting to that Rev 5 as part of the new baseline?
So great question, Mr. Sadler. Appreciate that. I can't comment on DoD, but I can comment on DCSA. We are a work in progress, and this is something that we're going to have to definitely partner with the NISA working group on. What we're doing behind the scenes, and it was on one of the slides that was done earlier, is from an EMAS application perspective, the system has been architected to accommodate Rev 5. But what we're doing is we're staying plugged in with all the other DoD customers that have EMAS applications and understanding their transition and their transition plans. And we don't want to get ahead of a lot of our customers as well. But we're going to have to partner up on a transition plan when that comes to play, because a 5,000 systems transitioning to a Rev 5 is going to be a significant workload. I don't see it in the immediate future. We'll definitely partner with you, of course, and the NISA working group for a common sense approach to any transition to Rev 5. There are some other things that we're looking to take advantage of with Rev 5 when we transition to that. I won't go into too many details here. It's probably more appropriate for a NISA working group discussion, but that may save a lot of time on industry and on our ISSP workforce as it relates to addressing controls. So more to follow on that, but I think this year would be this FY would be great to start having that conversation with some of my team, really diving into the details with the NISA working group and coming up with a common sense approach on a transition, a longer term transition to Rev 5.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Are there any other questions for Dave Scott? All right, David, how about questions from the public for Dave?
No questions at this time.
All right, we do have a question for DOE. How often does DOE perform a DOE site visit assessment? DOE, can anyone address that right now?
Hi, this is Jamie. I cannot address that right now, but I will definitely take that back and find the answer for you.
Great, thank you so much, Shannon. All right, we are now going to hear from Mr. Michael Ray, Deputy Assistant Director of Operations and Adjudication and Vetting Services with DCSA for their statistics. Mike?
Thanks, Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. Mike Ray here. So I'm going to start off with some AVS updates, and then I will transition over to Mr. Mark Peckrell to provide some additional information regarding the BI timelines and inventory metrics. So for adjudication and vetting services, we're in the process of establishing a dedicated industry division. That will be responsible for interim determinations, management of the PSII investigation request, CV management, and final adjudications for the NISP population. The industry division will continue to partner with industry, provide premier security services, and enhance customer service. The division will be led by myself under the leadership of Ms. Heather Green. We're in the process of that right now. I would say over the next couple of months, we'll have it stood up and begin to start focusing solely on the industry work there. So looking forward to that. For transfer of trust, AVS continues to deliver transfer of trust reciprocity decisions at an average of 1 calendar day. For industry conditionals, to implement risk management methodology using continuous vetting and maximizing mission readiness, AVS started to grant conditional eligibility determinations for industry in February of 2024. Since implementation, AVS has issued 100 conditional eligibility determinations. For CV alerts, incident report management, so post-CV enrollment, alerts are generated based on established thresholds which align with federal investigative standards and adjudicative guidelines. Continuous vetting is impactful as we average a 6% alert rate. Criminal and financial are the most common valid actionable alerts. For FY24, AVS received 137,000 industry alerts, of which 22,000 or 16% were not previously known from 17,100 unique industry subjects. And just note that information should have been self-reported, as our goal moving forward is to continue to have individual self-report information as it occurs. And with that, I will transition over to Mr. Peckrell for his portion of the briefing.
Thank you very much, Mike. In the interest of time, you all will see in front of you, I think, at least I'm seeing it now, the DCSA inventory and timeliness slide. I won't belabor any of the specific metrics on there. I will note, however, that the numbers you see with regard to inventory and case processing timeliness, particularly the background investigation portion, are not where DCSA would like them to be, and we, of course, understand fully it is not where our industry partners would like that to be or our federal agency partners. So to get at that, roughly 2 months ago or so, Director Tatler of DCSA chartered a Tiger team internally here at DCSA, led by a senior executive within our PS branch, that is bringing together subject matter experts, process experts from around DCSA to do business process reengineering and taking a look at the entire BI process from projecting workloads out to CV itself. Looking for areas where we can make improvements, where we can streamline processes, where we can save time and be better and process the cases more quickly and allow you to get your folks in their chairs working in support of the national security more quickly. The most earliest stage of that, the discovery stage, was completed a couple of weeks ago. The initial findings were reported to Director Cattler and other DCSA senior leadership. There was a number of specific findings. I think for the purposes of here, I'll summarize them by saying they fell into three distinct buckets. One essentially is workload forecasting, working with our federal customers and industry to get a better, more thorough understanding of exactly what workload to expect and anticipate each year. That was part of it. Another part of it is workload management, workload processing, both within the Personnel Security Directorate here at DCSA, our records processing, our quality review processing, and also certainly at our field locations around the country, to which the investigators report and from which they get their work and go out and conduct the background investigation. So work is going to be focused on that as well. Finally, it's throughput, identifying bottlenecks in the process with the field, with records processing, with our review team at the tail end of it. And we recognize that a large number of cases within our inventory, and the inventory right now, as of earlier this week, has dipped down to below 280,000, which is about 5% down since the beginning of November and about 13% down since the beginning of the fiscal year. But a large number of cases in the inventory are pending just a final touch, whether that is one final records check, one final review from quality review, something like that. So we want to get at these bottlenecks and see about getting as many of these one or two touch less cases that we have processed and out to you and to our other customers as quickly as we can. So that is sort of the high level synopsis of our inventory and timeliness activities. Rest assured this has the highest level of attention both by Director Cattler as well as all of us here at DCSA, the PAC PMO. Mr. Matt Eames, who many of you are familiar with, is acting as a senior level advisor and guide as we go down this process. So we anticipate being able to implement some changes and some improvements as early as the end of January or thereabouts. So I will stop there pending any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Peckrell. Are there any questions from any NISPPAC members for Mike or Mark? All right, Candace, any questions for them in the queue?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Now we will hear from Mr. Perry Russell Hunter, the Director of the Defense Office of Hearings and Appeals, also known as DOHA. Perry, over to you.
Thank you, Heather. And I want to congratulate Michael Thomas on his appointment as the Director of ISOO. I recently had the opportunity and privilege to meet with Jennifer May and Heather Harris-Pagan, and you could not have two more dedicated and experienced professionals. Their knowledge and experience in security is very impressive. So ISOO is in a very strong place now. I also want to thank Quentin Wilkes and Kathy Thurston for their exemplary service to the NISPPAC. And I know that even though they might be leaving the NISPPAC, they will, knowing them, they will continue to be forces to be reckoned with in this space, and that's a very good thing indeed. I also want to welcome Mariana Martineau back to DoD. As many of you know, and I think was mentioned in an earlier NISPPAC, she was part of the innovation of moving to DCSA granting conditional clearances in industry. That was done in partnership with DOHA and is one of the things that marks a very positive partnership between DOHA and DCSA. Jeff Spinnanger earlier used the term modernization, and we at DOHA have modernized in a couple of important areas. We've modernized how we hold the hearings themselves. We're using the Teams platform increasingly. For fiscal year 2024, we reached the level of 84% of our cases now being done over Teams. That is a real change from the overwhelmingly in-person hearings we used to do. We still do, however, conduct hearings in person in appropriate cases that call for it, particularly where witness credibility is critical to the decision,
or we have expert witnesses, or we have other document-intensive work to do in the case. So we will continue to be doing in-person hearings. We've just found the efficiency of doing more of them over Teams. We've also modernized how we handle documents. In partnership with Heather Green and AVS, we have now gone paperless in our exchanges with DCSA's AVS, and that is an important step. It's also the timing will not be lost on NARA officials, but this is also consistent with NARA rules. So the partnership with DCSA and DOHA is strong. Of course, DOHA's role in the collateral industrial security clearance eligibility process is to provide a fair and consistent and transparent process that's independent of DCSA. So while we have a partnership, we also are well aware of our role as independent decision makers. That starts with DOHA's independent legal review of statements of reasons before they get issued. And this notice gets out promptly because we're turning around those legal reviews in under 30 days. These legal reviews ensure that the notice document that an individual in industry gets is of the highest quality and accuracy. Jeff Spinnanger had earlier, in a different context in this meeting, used the term fast and right. Almost 2,000 legal reviews this past fiscal year were done fast and right by DOHA to ensure the highest quality and the quickest possible notice to individuals who are affected by clearance decisions. Now, of course, DOHA does provide, as part of the established administrative process, hearings or the opportunity to appear personally prior to any denial or revocation decision made by the government, and that's because of Executive Order 10865, which requires that. A recent DoD innovation has been to also provide the opportunity to appear personally for service members and civilians in that separate process prior to a denial or revocation. And while that has not been implemented yet, that is the plan within DoD. Why I mention that is because I understood that there was a little bit of confusion last month at AIA and DIA, where some comments were made that suggested that DOHA was not going to be providing the established administrative due process for industry collateral clearance eligibility, and that is not correct. I got a lot of calls about that. I wasn't at the conference, but I definitely got to hear about it. So I'm here to clear up that confusion and to state unequivocally that DOHA is and will continue to be the hearing and appeals provider for collateral clearance eligibility for industry. Now, SCI clearances in industry are handled using the military and civilian process. So there is some relevance to the SCI cleared population. But as of right now, there is an unambiguous right to collateral clearance eligibility hearings and appeals at DOHA. DOHA's transparency and responsiveness is something that you all on the NISPPAC are aware of. I know that Ike Rivers, for example, can attest to this, and there are other NISPPAC members that I know can as well. But because DOHA is independent of the contractor and investigations and adjudication that's done by DCSA, that is our role. We are continuing to dispatch it, and I wanted to make sure that you all had time to ask me any questions if you have any. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. The NISPPAC members for DOHA? All right, Devin, is anyone in the queue for questions?
Not at this time.
Before we move on to new business, are there any additional questions for any of the speakers? All right, we're now at the point of the meeting where we ask NISPPAC members to present any new business they may have, if there is any. Anyone? All right. As a reminder, all NISPPAC meeting announcements are posted in the Federal Register approximately 30 days before the meeting, along with being posted to the IC blog. There is a factor of the National Archives of Washington, D.C., so I'll be closing out the meeting for Mr. Thomas. We appreciate you attending today. For situational awareness and logistical purposes, we are hoping to have future meetings in a hybrid environment moving forward. As requested, we expect the next NISPPAC public meeting to be in person at the NDIA conference in May. We will share more information as it becomes available. As a reminder, this recording, along with the transcript minutes, will be available within 90 days on our website. Meeting adjourned, and I'll give you back 20 minutes of your time. Thank you.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using Inteller Events. You may now disconnect.